consciousness can have an impact on the cosmos or the way that the future will unfold. Now, it's hard not to see all the horrors that are happening if you're awake,
Okay, we're
spirit.
back on YouTube.
Okay. All right, everyone. So we're back on YouTube because I wanted to give you a moment to please jump on Rockfin where it's uncensored and follow me there. I believe the channel is Truth Lives Here. It's in the description. And we'll continue the conversation because I want to get into mysterious deaths. And I do want to talk about the forced jabs that they often kill me for. So please join us there. Please support real journalism and people who care and are detail oriented. All right. Thank you, Dylan. All right. So, yeah. So I was saying that our collective consciousness, and I think what's missing, Frank, in a lot of these discussions to save America, or, we talk about Christianity, which also you can argue where did that come from, Horus, Isis, Osiris, but nobody really talks about cultivating the consciousness, being responsible, transcending victimhood, and being kind and saying sorry and looking at your shadow, because this is what's important. And kind of just elevating your consciousness together. So I'd love for you to comment on that. I think it's very necessary to have men and women be wisdom keepers. And that's one of the reasons why I appreciate your presence and your information, because I feel that people can emulate that. I don't know how someone cultivates mindfulness. It's been part of me on my spiritual journey, which I began at age 13. I know that I'm an old soul. I believe in reincarnation. And so, yeah, maybe you can touch upon that.
Well, I think one of the first things that comes to mind is when you're talking about this masculine feminine thing, I think that there's something called the divine masculine and the divine feminine. It's been explored by people tending to be more in the spiritual community, it's in Christian religion. I think it's the Holy Ghost, or is symbolized by the dove, or the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. It's this spiritual element. But I think that there's a unique divine feminine energy and a unique divine masculine energy, and those two energies need to come together now, because we've been operating on the aspect of just a sort of a macho masculinity, and if you listen to the kind of cultural expressions out there, they have been tending to kind of where the one sex will denigrate the other sex, and it works the same from women's perspective over against men as it does from men against women. Of course, men being the stronger and the bigger, they are more of a threat because they can physically enforce their vibe compared to women. But when a man reaches a point where they want to make the next evolutionary step in their awakening process, they have to embrace this thing that I guess you could call the divine masculinity. And that doesn't mean that you become like, what I say there. What I'm saying is that you basically, it's part of it is looking at the greater picture of the world and realizing that there's that femininity has nothing to do with just being a woman, and masculinity doesn't have anything to do with just being a man. That there's masculine and feminine elements in both males and females, and we just need to find the balance of that. And a man that opens up his inner self and his higher self to allow more of this femininity in doesn't mean he's going to become a emasculated man, or be gay or something for doing it. It just means that there are these sensitive, subtle energies that women are far more in tune with because of their nature. They're women, maybe because they bear. Women are the bearers of humanities through a woman that we come into the world. So women have a much more sensitive perspective of the world than a man does. But that is also locked inside of a man, that perception of femininity, meaning that more subtle perception of the world. And that means that, that means being in touch with your feelings. So when you're having a conversation, or if you state something, what it means to be a divine masculine person is to understand that, to think about maybe how that affected the other person, to actually feel what it did to that other person. That means, because we all have the capacity to feel the other person in a conversation that we're having, or even a group. We can feel what's coming back at us when we talk to them. And if we're shutting that part down, we're just projectors, and we're not getting back that important information, which is that subtle information, which is tapping into that divine masculinity, which is more feeling, more emotional oriented. And it's the same with women that have been kind of shut. It's almost like we've abused each other back and forth through the centuries, so we've become compartmentalized in a way. The way someone like Kathy O'Brien will talk about it in Mind Control Projects and Transformation of America, for example. They use this kind of compartmentalization through trauma, and we've traumatized ourselves, and we've traumatized our society through what I was talking about earlier, the way we disclose history, the way history is falsified, so that there's always this idea of the villain and the good people, and it's this simplified version. We need to rise above that. And I think that if we open ourselves up to this divine sense of masculinity and divine femininity, we will begin to see where we've been misled and where we've been led down the garden path. And we can actually, I think, feel truth more than we can anything else. And that when we're in touch with those sort of senses, these are the extra senses that are unlocked in us. And I think those are the senses when they talk about a new world and what the new world is about. When I visualize it, it's those kinds of things. I kind of feel like I feel more telepathically in tune. I feel more in tune on a resonant level with the world than in the old timeline. And that, I think, will happen on its own, but we have to cultivate that. And we have to discuss that, and we have to make people aware that this is actually a possibility, that we're actually wired to actually open up to that. And not only are we wired for it, like things like the pineal gland and the fact that our brains are interferometers, is that we actually have help from the cosmos right now because of the location that our planet happens to be in the cosmos. It happens to be timed almost as if some creator being said, you know what, let's put them on this little ball, hurl them through space, and when they get to this point, we're going to hit them with this special juice, and that juice is going to unlock all those abilities. And then boom, they're going to have this awakening. And this is almost exactly what's really going on. It sounds kind of super simplified. I guess I'm guilty of that for a 12-year-old kind of thing. But what I'm getting at is that we need to talk about that. We need to make ourselves aware of that. And then maybe we'll begin to, and people are already waking up. The early people are already waking up. They call them the indigos or whatever. They've got words for them. But this is just a sign that this is kind of our inheritance, where we're going. And this is the future of mankind, the natural future. And that's what we're up against. We've got the natural future up against the artificial future. And that's a serious, this is a serious crossroads we're on right now. And I think people really need to understand. People, this is the last generation of organic, natural human beings that we're facing right now. The last generation. If we do not wake up and we do not start thinking about these things and steering the track off of the direction we're going in and saying no to those things. And part of that means, like you mentioned it earlier, it's kind of depressing and dark, but it's this going through the dark night of the soul has a constructive purpose. It's about getting to the bottom of the garbage and saying, okay, I've learned that. Now I see through the illusion, and tossing it aside and realizing it's just baggage, it's ballast, keeping us down. And those people that are pitching and promoting it, they're just clowns, selling us snake oil. And that's not where we want to go. But we really are at that crossroads.
I want to say to that first, yes, we have a female and a male energy within each person, regardless of their gender. There's two genders, by the way. And this attack on humanity, this dumbing down with chemicals that literally robs you of IQ points rather than optimizing the biology and delving into the other senses, is the complete opposite. Of course, people who've been tracking, this transgender movement is very much part of this transhumanist movement. As early as 2018, I was noticing all the endocrine disruptors and estrogen mimickers And there's really an attack on both sexes, and to think that we're priming young children to go and lob off their boobies or penis and give them these harsh drugs is disgusting. And to echo Jordan Peterson, these are criminal physicians.
Yeah.
It's just disgusting because it's the complete opposite. I want to also say that when I moved to Florida from what I call Chinafornia, and I was driving to a different area, and I checked into hotel, and they brought me to room 101, which I found really interesting given I had reread 1984 and 2019. And I kind of realized, well, in 1984, Winston sees rats. That's his fear. And that I was seeing this police state, and I was really delving into transhumanism, and it was freaking me out. And I just decided I refused to allow them to project this future onto me, and I need to snap out of it, which has been hard because this is my work to digest all this shit all day and make sense of it. And that's why I spy on the mainstream media. I want to see what they're seeding the narrative. I'm also
Sure.
very aware of how this jab has further disembodied people. I believe people are completely checked out. I don't know if if you've done any research on um, the God particle inside of us. I think it's VMA2, but arguably this jab has done something in this, because they're creating this other, they're melding machine with man. We are the less of the
Right.
non-genetically modified humans. I don't know how to reach the masses when everybody's in the rat race of just putting food on the table, and they don't have the time to discern between, they're believing all the lies. Professor, I mean, everything is co-opted now.
Yes.
So I don't know what the solution is, other than if a spirit is seeking this out and wanting to not be a victim, and be
Right.
involved in their future.
Right. Well, people say a lot. What I hear a lot is that, we're not.